So, how have things been since your last session?
Um, I will say I think I definitely playing more confident. Now this is like definitely not me blaming you at all, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this is just like probably because I'm forcing myself to take more fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
Your
something,
KD's probably you're going down.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
just like my win rate is it's not even my KDA, it's my win rate is fucking tanking, but I'm
yeah,
not too bothered by that. I just want to fight, you
yeah.
know? Um, so but I was feeling good until the season 16 sorry, not 16. Is it 16?
Yeah, this is 16.
Until Revelry dropped, and then like it came with like the customizable range,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, wow, my aim is like dog shit. Like I set like all the dummies to max Drake, but like it's like in a very predictable pattern,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like missing like like a quarter of my alternator mag, like missing like 4 wingnut shots in a row. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, this
Yeah,
is embarrassing.
the important thing to talk about. I mean, one, if you want to use fire range like that, I recommend a lot. I mean, aim training is a good way to supplement your gameplay rather than using like fire range. Fire range can
Mhm,
be fine, right? But
mhm,
like in aim trainer is typically just a way better way to do so.
mhm.
Um, excuse me, sorry.
No, you're
Yeah.
good.
The fire range dummies are. It's the thing is that they always strafe really fast. Most opponents you get in a
Yeah,
game don't strafe as fast because they have like 80.
yeah.
They have ADSing. You can when you're 1-to-1 to a dummy, right?
Mhm.
You're always going to face it. Hang on, let me screen share real quick for you. Excuse me. The cough is bad today. I don't know why.
Well,
I
that's me too.
apologize.
No, you're good.
I'm just coming off of a sickness. Um, but
Better.
when when you are, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're standing in front of a dummy, right,
Mhm,
and the dummy is going left, right, at
mhm,
max speed, right, this is the
mhm,
fastest a target will ever appear to you, right?
mhm,
Because especially if you move as well, right?
mhm.
If you move as well, so if dummy only moves to the left and you move to the right, you guys will start. Well, if this dummy was looking at you and using mouse movement to look at you as well, right? You guys would go in a circle, right? This is the
Yeah, yeah,
fastest. This is the fastest you would ever move relative to an opponent. Only if it'd only be faster if both of you guys had like a speed boost. Like if both of you guys were octane stimming and they're walking around in a circle around each other, right? And you'd do this.
yeah.
Um, it's important to know that if you're practicing standing still when aiming, right? That's not very realistic to a lot of situations that you're in, right? Because you're always gonna be moving in game. You're always gonna be moving left and right. You're always gonna be trying to
Mhm,
dodge enemies while trying to shoot at the same time, right?
mhm.
Um, I can talk a little bit about movement as well, right? Um, standing still. People will think a lot that standing still is the way to like if you need to just hit a shot, always just stand still, right? Which isn't necessarily true. It can be easier, right? Because if we go if we look at 3 ways to make it harder to aim, right? If I go to my Apex and actually put it up, right? Let's look at the 3 scenarios, right? So one, so we have scenario 1, right? So if we
Mhm.
can't control our target's movement, right? We can't control that, so it's not an element we're going to focus on, right?
All right.
So we're going to say that statically our target's always going to be moving to the left, right?
Mhm.
And we're going to decide how we react based on that, right?
All right.
So one, we can stand still, right? This makes it okay. This is not this doesn't make it hard to hit, right? We're standing still. All
Mhm,
we have to do is focus on our target's moving, right?
mhm,
We can also do if our target's moving to the and we can look at option 2, right? Our target's moving to the left. Um and we move to the right, right?
mhm,
This is the hardest, right?
mhm,
Because not only do it to account for our speed, we have to account for the target speed, right?
mhm.
And we're kind of working against each other, right? Like we're moving the opposite way that our target's moving. We're working against our target, trying to aim at them, right?
All right.
So what would be the easiest way to aim at somebody? We want to move with them, right?
Mirror them, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, this is called mirroring. This is the concept of mirroring, right?
Mhm,
When you're aiming at somebody, this is the easiest way to aim at them because you don't have to focus on you have to focus on their movement like 50% ish less, right?
Yeah.
Like ish. That's because it depends on a lot of things. But we'll just say 50 ish, right?
Mhm.
This make your aim. I mean, this make aiming a lot easier. A lot of people don't like unconsciously do this because I mean they hit, a lot of people will like look at my gameplay. They'll mirror somebody for 0.4 seconds,
Mhm.
and 0.4 seconds in a game like Apex Legends is like a third of an R9 clip, right? Which is
Right.
like 90 damage, right? And like, holy shit, I just beat that
Right.
guy, and I'm like, yeah, you moved the same direction this guy moved, so you mirrored him, and you killed him, right?
Mhm.
God, it's like something in my throat. It's fucking driving me insane. It's important to understand that if we're going to use especially dummies in the firing range, right? Because in an aim trainer, we're typically in this situation, right? We're typically in the
Yeah.
situation where we stand still. The target goes whoop, 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 in whatever direction, right?
Mhm.
And we can do this. I mean, we can do this in the firing range, right? But it's again once more to understand that we're looking to make situations harder than when they are than they actually are in the game, right? Because we always assume that we're always gonna be able to walk the same direction, somebody mirror them.
Mhm.
We're particularly gonna be in we're not setting ourselves up for failure. We're just giving ourselves the wrong expectations, I would say. So
Mm.
like number one thing I would focus on, right, is
Mhm.
if you're struggling to crack targets of this speed, right? Hello? Let me.
Oh, there's somebody in the range with you.
What? Why is there a guy in the range with me? Hello?
Yeah, that's a bug.
I would like to use the firing range. Okay, we're good now. Right, so like this is so like this is like the hardest for you, right? Moving like this. Right. The important thing, there's two things when tracking targets that are really important in Apex, right?
Mhm.
These are the two most important fundamentals of tracking and just aiming in general in this game, right?
Mhm.
So you'll see that when a target changes direction, right? It slows down. Right. It slows down for a small period before changing direction, right? It kind of like stops in place a little bit. There's no instant left-right movement.
Mhm.
And this is a concept called movement acceleration. This is just hey, before you change speed, your speed has to hit 0, right?
Yeah.
And then your speed can increase and start going to your maximum, right? So if we look at this dummy, and if we're going to aim at it, we want to consistently under track the dummy, right? So if we aim on the outside of the dummy like this, right, on the very edge of the dummy,
Mhm.
whenever the dummy strafes backwards into our crosshair, right,
Right.
it's gonna whenever the dummy strafes back. So if it's only gonna strafe to the left, right? Let's just assume it's going to strafe to the left, right? When it reaches the point where it's going to strafe to the right, it walks through our crosshair and lets us under track once again, right? It's kind of like an endless cycle.
Mhm.
You notice that every time the dummy changes direction, it takes me like less than a second, obviously, but a small period of time to actually adjust to where it's going, right? But by utilizing under tracking, like if I'm continually firing at it and it changes direction, you'll see that I can always hit target, even though my body can't. I can't react instantly. I'm not human, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, I'm not gonna be able to read every target's movement all the time. If you consistently under track like this, the enemy will do most of the work for you, right? And imagine if the enemy just does this, and all I have to do is just consistently under track like this.
Yeah.
Literally just do this, right? The other concept of tracking that's really important, right, is that if you're off target, I don't want you to do a flick, right? I don't want you to go like that, right? Go back on target, right? When you're off target, you want to speed up to catch up the target, right? You don't want to go like that, right? Like obviously, I have better fundamentals than you probably. I have better fundamentals than a lot of people, right? So my flicks are gonna hit the target. Your flicks aren't necessarily going to do so, right?
Right.
When you're under tracking target, right? I want you to speed up, and you want to speed up and then slow down, right? You kind of want to treat it like a car. With a car, if you're going below the speed limit, you don't just go to the speed limit, right? You speed the car up. to go to the speed limit, and then maybe if you go over a little bit, you want to try and treat it like a rev, right? So slowly increase increase how much pressure you put in your mouse, you know, or sorry, increase how much you move your mouse rather to actually catch up to the target, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want because if you're missing a fourth of your mag, stuff like that, and the target isn't just readjusting, right, constantly, you're probably putting way too much into it, right? And if you're going way too fast, just focus on slowing down, right? Focus on putting the minimum amount of effort required to track somebody, right? Your aim shouldn't look like this, right? Because I'm trying way too hard to shoot the guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying way too hard to shoot the guy. I'm trying to read every movement that the guy does. Like every time, like I'm trying to over predict like what he's doing. Just make it simple. Make it as easy as possible. You'll see that when I track, I'm just kind of really light with the way I move. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And especially if you practice under tracking on dummies in the firing range, your aim will improve a lot because you just do less, right? Aiming is also doing as little as possible, right?
Yeah.
Because the more input we give ourselves, right? The more input we give ourselves, the more room for human error we have, right? This is why mirroring works really well, right? Because with a mouse, we have to worry about the target speed, our speed, like all that stuff, right? But what if we mirror them like this? All we have to do is just press one key. That's all we gotta do, right?
Yeah.
See how accurate I am on target?
Yeah.
Compared to my mouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's periods where my mouse can't perfectly match his speed, right? I'm not good enough to do that, and I'm sure you're not good enough to do that either. But I'm sure you're good enough to just. It's easy. It's way easier, right? So you shouldn't have to make it way harder on yourself to do it, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oops. Yeah. Let me mute my game. But that's the one thing you're focusing on the tracking, right? Don't get too worried about, like, don't get too worried about aiming. If you want to go in the firing range to practice your aim against dummies, like that's fine, obviously, right? But if you want your aim to get the best it like statistically could ever be, right? I recommend like aim training. I can go over aim training with you at some point if you'd like, and like talk about aim training. But
yeah, that works. Yeah, I feel like I'm just like doing like the basic scenarios because I just have no idea what else to do.
Yeah. It's really important to make sure you know what you're doing, right? Because if you don't, if you don't know what you're doing, right, it's like going to the gym, picking up a weight and just kind of like doing like whatever with it, right? Like you're not really like training anything, you're not doing anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Important. And overall, you said that your win percentage is down, right?
Oh yeah, it's gone down. Yeah,
which is a good thing.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, it's a good thing because our goal isn't to win, right? Our goal is not to win. Our goal is to get better at the game, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to fight. I don't like give a shit about my win rate. I'm definitely taking a lot more fights in tonight, but I'm also like I feel like when the majority of my games are like die to like the second or third team off drop and then just queue again. But I'm not too bothered by that actually.
That's good. It's very, very good. It's important. It's just important to understand our goal, like just our whole goal with what we're doing, right? They're an open mic Mirage player.
He was just like doing like the most like unholy sounds like when we were like doing character select. I was like, I deal with this shit.
Yeah,
right
I know. For some people,
he was kind of bizarre. Like look where he dropped. It's very interesting.
In the water? What the hell? What is he doing?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just a gamer, you feel me?
Hello, Factoria. Hello. How are you? Welcome in.
So I did switch back to Wraith, so this was like one of the games where I was trying to get used to her again.
Shield here. Level 2.
Okay.
Already inside. Another enemy down.
Enemy killed. I took care of it, don't worry.
That guy just walked in a straight line and it worked for him for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know. I was hitting a lot of big sevens.
No.
So a lot of this game actually does end up being solo.
Isn't it what?
It does end up being solo. I like res them later. You'll see, and then it just they go down again. So like
Yeah.
for the latter half, I'm just kind of just wandering stuff and after solo.
Yeah, I mean, randoms will be like that. It'll be like that. I mean, you've already done empirically good work here, right? Like,
I think one of my randoms early, like later, you'll see like he like. I mean, I don't think he was like angry about it. But he was getting kind of like snarky. He's like, oh, like you're always like queuing out when you take damage. And,
well,
like,
what do you remember? You die?
But I'm like, yeah, but like I'm killing people and like you just have to clean up and you're still dying. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like
Yeah, it's random. You don't really hold their word until you know anything. That, right?
Yeah.
Guy is so lost, Bloodhound. I think in every situation you want to go for armor swap before a res, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's dumb, but I'm just like worried about people like screaming at me on open mic. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand that. That guy just ignored you.
Yeah, there's just so many situations in this specific game where I should not be alive.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you haven't done anything wrong though. Like you landed pretty safe. You came here to come fight. Right here. A really small thing, right? I wanted to build this early in you, actually. Right? Look at how you move here, right? Like, don't look at how your mouse moves. Look at how you move as a person, right?
Yeah.
If we look right here, right? You go. I'm gonna kind of plot out your movements, right? So we go. So right here, you go. You walk to the left here, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you walk to the right, left, right. Like literally, you go right, left, right in a span of like 0.3 seconds, right? When you when you move like that, right? There's only really one reason to move like that, and the whole reason to move like that is mostly to trigger recoil smoothing, right? You know what recoil smoothing is, right?
Yeah, that's why I strafe. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, I can't control the gun's recoil.
Which is fine. You don't need to know recoil control in this game at all. Right. But it's important to also, even then when you're doing it, you also want to make sure that your strafe's a little bit longer, like this, right? Because if you ultimately end up like trying to strafe for recoil smoothing, right? But you don't have excuse me, I had to burp. You don't, strafe very well. You're almost gonna throw off your aim a lot more than you need help, right? So
yeah.
If we look at, so obviously, right, if we're going to dodge somebody, right, if we're going like if this guy's shooting me, right, if I do this, I'm not doing anything, right? I'm not, because I'm just mostly standing still, right? But if I stay still just a little bit longer like this, I'm way harder to hit, right? And my aim is so much more consistent, right?
Okay.
Because if I do this, look at my crosshair, right? I'm gonna try and there's not really an ability to adjust my aim for what I'm doing, right? Like I kind of can, and sure I can, but like you see, I'm kind of making it worse by trying to do it better, but trying to fix it, right? If I so when you're trying to recoil smooth on people, right? Make sure you do these like a little bit longer, right? Like this. It'll help you so much more to do something like this, right? And just kind of build it in your brain, right? If I'm trying to strafe, or every time you strafe to the right, you can practice this in the firing range. Every time you strafe to the right, move around to the left, right? If the target's staying center, or you're rolling faster than target, this is all you have to do, right? Just kind of get a good idea of centering and how to center against opponents. That's right. And even doing this will help you in situations where you're really far away, right? Because you don't have to move because if you don't have to move your mouse crazy. You have to just do slight readjustments to your mouse every time you change direction, right? Just slight little adjustments. Nothing crazy. Right? And you'll see that even when I change direction there, I miss shots, right?
Yeah.
But if I do these long, clean strafes compared to these little short ones, right? It's so much more consistent and so much more accurate, right? Especially if I don't have a mag, like you didn't either, right? Seeing just a few shots, like I don't kill that guy, right? I don't kill that dummy because I don't have a mag. important to understand that whole concept when trying to recoil smooth. Make sure that you do these longer strafes. I wouldn't strafe faster than like this, right? Because with this, we're still dodging and we're still have the ability to have pretty good aim, right?
Okay.
You can practice this in the firing range with no mag R9. Right, just do this over and over again. Because if we stand still, we also just do recoil control, right?
Yeah.
But if we really want to practice it, we can do it like further away, like this, right? Even then, I still don't consistently kill it, right? It takes me hitting like every shot to do so, even especially at ranges like this. Then you can just back up. You can get more comfortable with it. You can just go this, right?
Yeah.
Just keep doing it over and over again. This is my recommendation for practicing this. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't cost you a lot, right? But it will in situations like make you unable, like just make you miss knocks. And you slide down, which is fine. Like you don't really do anything wrong here.
It's also like, I feel like in most games I play, I feel like I find myself in a lot of situations where I'm like last one standing, so then I like get like kind of like worried, like, do I have a bad habit of dipping out too early, or I don't know.
You typically, I mean, you play like Wraith Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
You play characters with a lot of personal survivability. That was really good. That was also really good. You want to armor swap on these guys, probably.
Their third just ends up quitting, so it ends up being fine, I guess. I don't know why, but
Oh wait, oh yeah, challenge sees the game. Sorry, my bad. Here, let me replay this for. Backs up for stream.
okay.
So he goes down for a reset here. I mean, also here, look, right? You mirror this guy, right? You also don't guy here, you mirror him. And he just dies instantly, right? Because the R9's broken as hell. And then you mirror this guy, and then he dies, right? It's so easy. Like clean as hell 1v2.
I'm kind of hiding here because I'm waiting for the third to drop down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to do, but then he just quits.
Why did you just quit? Okay.
I don't know.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh, Phoenix K here.
Yeah, I didn't pick up that Phoenix guy. I don't know why. I think
it's okay. I can tell, especially from your last session though, that you've gotten so much more comfortable fighting. You got so much better at fighting already.
Okay, that's good.
Like you are a lot. I mean, if you look at how you approached fights last time, right? You were a lot less scared to do on your own. And even here, right? You're still playing for the team. You still go grab team's banner, even though you probably should heal, right?
Yeah.
Try heal here,
Yeah.
As my chat said, that Valken fuse got nanted. That Valken fuse got nanted. They got destroyed. Absolutely just dumpstered them.
Yeah. I feel like they just swung me at the same time.
Yeah.
I probably should have been dead, but I don't know why they walked in a single file line.
You played cover really well and just outplayed them. Like sure. You took a really disadvantageous fight, but you did it in a really good way.
But yeah, so I don't know. I can't hear audio on my end, but I'm sure you can hear yours. I hear like an ash port coming in really soon, so I try to get them to get their stuff and reset.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear it right now.
Yeah.
Frag out. an Evo shield here. Level 2.
Death box here.
Yeah, and you're playing for the team here, which is fine.
I need light ammo.
You see. The guy's a re, okay.
Follow the tunnel.
I try to get them to take port.
Yo, boys, take port, take height.
Getting shot at. Recharging my shields.
So this part I was getting kind of annoyed because I felt like I was taking way too much damage for how much damage I was outputting, even though we had height.
You just don't have weapons for this fight. Is the problem, right? Because look at your weapons, right? Weapons
Yeah.
are R90A. What range do you excel in?
I'm taking shots.
Close.
Right,
Maybe mid, but probably close, yeah.
Yeah, and what range are you in right now? Like
Mid to
medium?
long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like if you want to fight, you have to force a fight in a closer range, you know.
Mhm.
Which is fine, right? Like you can play the forefront of your team, you can play the front line of your team.
Yeah, so the Mirage doesn't take port, so at this point I don't know whether I should have just, went back downhill to challenge with him, but
And then he took the worst peek imaginable by just crouching.
he just kept peeking even though he was taking damage. I was just confused.
Yeah, he's just dumb. And then you have to help your teammate here. Good knock.
Broken enemy shield.
Right. This is gonna be a hard one to win. Oh, never mind. She canceled her Phoenix kit. Never mind.
Yeah, it's just sloppy Eva shots though.
That's fine. You can go to height here. You can grab your Caustic's armor. Can I imagine what you're gonna go for here?
Oh no, I just completely forget to even get his banner. I wasn't expecting a third party like fucking that soon.
Mm.
Back up. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the number one thing you would benefit from, I think, is from speeding up how fast you initiate fights in, right? And I'll talk a little bit about that. But like your actual fighting is fine. Your actual fighting is really good, right? You can approach fights and you can approach fights. You can initiate fights. Just if we speed up how fast you initiate fights, right? You will probably be doing. It will probably overall be doing a lot better, right? It'll help you all out of your rhythm, right? Especially
What do you
because
mean by the speed of how I approach fights?
I'll talk a little about that after this game, right?
Okay.
Have you broken your kill record, by the way?
Yeah, it's in a different game though. I can send you that game, but there's just like a fuck ton of lag. Like you'll see like I hit the fattest no reg just because I lagged out. So I'm not sure if it's fun to watch, but yeah, I got to 10 somehow.
Mhm.
And it was basically a solo game too.
Pog. Oh yes, yeah. So your highest kill game previously was 9, right? And like
Yeah.
in this, you've already reached it in this game, right?
Well, that's it, because the rest of the game is running, and then the way I die it was just fucking pain. Like I cannot fight a Mirage. I just freeze.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying.
My shields.
Yeah, so
Right,
the rest of the game is just running until like the very last, and then I choke so hard.
What's up,
It's
me
not
and
even
my
funny.
strategy?
Mm. Yeah.
No idea what my strategy is.
I know where the next care package is.
Yeah, guess what? She's not even my main. Deadass, only playing her because I just got this kunai.
This is probably how most of the game goes, right? Like this.
Yeah, it's
Mostly
quite
just
literally
working.
just taking pot shots and then fucking running until the very end.
And then I assume it's the last team, right?
Yeah,
That's
this
a
is
Mirage.
so embarrassing. I have no idea how to counter this. it just hurts me so bad how like this future game ends for me. Like I'm like, bruh.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Was the guy a solo?
Yeah, he was solo. He was. I was actually gonna push the Lobo team, and then I saw saw him out of the corner of my eye. I think it's like heal. So I got cocky. Like normally when a Mirage ults, I personally don't know how to fight that, so I usually just like reset. But then I was like, nah, I got this, and then I just eat shit. Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, right?
Uh-huh.
I can tell you which one's the real one right now. It's this one.
Fucking hell. What?
It's that one. Look, ready? It's right here. He's right. He's to your left. You ran into him, right? So Mirage clones don't have collision. I don't know if you know that. Right? So right here, right?
Yeah.
You can see right here, right? When this guy walks here, Mirage, I hate the idea of like fake decoy characters, right? Because against players that know what they're doing, they're dog shit. They don't do anything, right? Like, sure, you can use them really creatively, but it's way harder to get value out of them than you have to normally, right? Because it's like, would I rather spend my time? Would I rather spend my time crafting one decoy that does one thing, right? Or would I rather just have like Valk missiles, right? And it's like, well, I'd rather just have Valk missiles, right?
Yeah.
Or like a scan, right? Because Mirage decoys like kind of scan you now.
Yeah.
It's like, right? So when you look here, right? This guy, before he got up, you saw it for like a second, right? He was crouching, and then he stood up and started walking this way, right? When he breaks when the decoys no longer go invisible, there's one decoy there's two decoys running this way, right? But this guy flashed at the very last second. I don't know if you see, he like flickers here, right? That's the real one. You see it? It's literally just small things about like animation stuff like that, right?
It's so annoying because this has happened to me like I get bamboozled way too much. Like it's so it's just tragic. I have no idea how to fight this guy.
The flicker's pretty quick, and it's mostly just like knowing what to look for, right? I've figured out Mirage decoys by being like, you couldn't be there that fast, and being because it's like I know where the fake one is. I know where the fake one is. I know the fake one is. You couldn't be here this fast, so you have to be this one. And it's literally and that's more like how many hours you have in the game, because I can't teach somebody how to know that, right? That's also like how you actually play the game, right? But Mirage. On a Mirage ults, there's two things you can always the Mirage ults. There's always two things you can check. One, the flicker, right? The real Mirage will flicker like that. Or two, there's a glow on the real Mirage if you're really close to him. If you're really close to him, his like shoulder pads will glow for like a second, and you can see the direction he's walking in, and then the glow will disappear, and then he'll reappear. But you can tell which direction he was going, right? Really good Mirages know how to mitigate this, but there's no really good Mirage, right? There's not one you'll ever come across, right? Because this guy doesn't do it, right? This guy just walks in a circle, right? But worst case scenario, right? If you are trying to engage a Mirage and you lose, and like obviously you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We're not gonna know who the perfect Mirage, or like we're not always gonna be able to keep track, right? We might miss it.
Yeah.
There might be too much going on. The game might not even show it to us, right? If you're in a situation against Mirage and you don't know what to do, right? Just stay in place and then act like all of them are real, right? If you act like all of them are real, literally use like deductive reasoning, right? So if you go right here, right? If he ults, just run back, right? Just run back, go to the cover, right? Because now, if you don't know which one's real, right? If you're shooting you right now, obviously, obviously you can still kill him, right? But he still has the advantage on you by shooting you, right? He's really shooting you first. He can still kill you first. If the Mirage wasn't, also playing like a dummy, he could have shot you. And like just killed you earlier, right? Don't get too ahead of yourself when trying to force like gunfights, right? When you are outnumbered, especially, right? This is the whole concept of this is a more advanced explaining concept, right? But when it comes to a 3v3, right? So this is you, and this is the enemy, right? Let's say your teammate's really dumb and gets knocked, right? So now it's 2v3, right? If you take a 1v1, right, and you take 100 damage, if you take 100 damage and then you deal 100 damage, is that trade equal for you?
No.
No, right? Because it's 2v3, right?
Yeah.
And so in this fight, right? In this fight, if I ask you in this fight specifically, this guy's a solo, sure, right? But if you do 100 damage to this guy, if you do 100 damage and then he does 100 damage, is that equal?
No, because I still got to worry about
Yeah, it's
if I
on a
can get
team,
away
right?
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? So
Yeah,
in this
that's
situation, right, a gunfight, does Fake Mirage not have a gun? No, they also they have a gun sometimes. It's hard. It's weird. It's not a reliable way to say if it is or isn't a Mirage. Quantum, by the way, thank you for the 13 months. Thank you. Welcome back. A gunfight, a 1v1 gunfight, right, is good when it's 1-to-1 ratio, right? So if it's a 3v3 and you can gain a measurable advantage, right, by knocking a guy, right? Then in that situation, it's good to fight a 1v1, right?
Yeah.
Those are situations where you have to fight a 1v1, right? Where it's like ring is close, like you're bounded by time, resources, whatever you have, right? Like you can't afford to kind of poke and then reset because you don't have like batteries, right? Like you don't have batteries and like that. Like you have to fight somebody, right? That's a good time for a 1v1 where you're constricted by time, like zones closing, you have to fight it like a 3v3. So then you take the 1v1, right? It's good. Situations like that is when 1v1s are really good, right? You're not really you're not really bound by time. You have a minute and a half before ring closes, right here, and like sure they can close you out, right? But you did have portal beforehand, and you also have portal that goes to the zone, right?
I think the only reason I charged him because I heard that it was like, okay, well, it's the last 3 teams.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly,
like
right.
I was worried about like, well, if I don't get there fast enough, I'm gonna have to worry about, final team is like triple red shield, just
Yeah, of course, and that's
charging my
very
shit. So
that's very understandable. On the macro side, that's completely fine, right? Like on the macro, like on the game sensor, that's fine. On the in-fight material, I want you to necessarily think about if you should be fighting a 1v1 duel, right? A 1v1 duel in the open with no cover, right? You almost never want to force gunfights, the straight 1v1 gunfights, right? You want a considerable advantage of some sort, right? So you want to play. Advantages like that can be like you play behind cover, you shoot forward, right? You shoot from cover, try to get like a good 100 damage lead, and then push in off that lead, right? You can also look for things like grenade usage. Like you can be like, I'm gonna throw an arc star and then push the guy. I'm gonna throw like a sky nade. I'm gonna thermite him. Or you can be like, I'm gonna use an ability, right? I mean, you're playing Wraith, you can't use abilities to do that because this character sucks, right? But like Bangalore smoke, right? Bangalore smoke through Digi, get like an angle. You can use like Bangle to get an advantage like that, right? You Bangle, you take all 3, push forward, right? Something like that, right? So it's important that in situations like this you don't get too ahead of yourself, right? Because like you do ego push this Mirage, right? But an ego push isn't necessarily the right play to do at your current skill level, right? Like obviously if you're a pred player, right? And this 1v1 situation doesn't exist, right? Because your skill level is so much better than the average player that you're just going to walk in, shit on the guy, armor swap, and then fight the 1v3, right? And that's when kind of the whole dynamic kind of changes. But it doesn't do that yet for you, and it doesn't do that for a majority of players, right?
I knew in my gut I should the moment he ulted, I was like, I should back up, but then I was kind of like, I guess I got too excited because I was thinking like cracked somebody on the other team, so they're gonna reset, right? I was kind of banking on this guy, maybe he didn't get his bat off before he ulted, but he ulted really fast, and I was just like, okay, maybe I can tank a bit of damage, because once he starts shooting me on the real one, and I was like, I'll take my chances, and then it just ended up backfiring, fantastically.
It's understandable. I think it's also important to know that the Mirage decoys don't have collision, right? Like you can also walk through these decoys, but you can't walk through the Mirage right there, which you don't realize is the real one. The important thing here is especially, right, like even if the guy is in Mirage, this isn't necessarily the right play to do, right?
Yeah.
I want you to just make sure that when you're in a situation where it's not going to take 1v1 gunfight, you play things just a little bit slower, right?
Yeah.
Let me talk a little bit earlier about how to make your engagement faster, right? So you go through, right? Did I talk to you about the cycle of gameplay from the last session about planning, execution, stuff like that?
No, we
No,
didn't.
okay. So every single fight, right?
Mhm.
Every single fight should look like this. I talk about this with every student. This is a really good thing to learn early on. The flow of a fight goes like this. It goes from info. Right? And info can be deliberately getting info,
Mhm.
or it can be very or it can be getting as like unintentionally. Right? Everything you do in this game gives you info, right? Like obviously,
Yeah.
hearing and seeing gives you info. Hearing with your ears gives you info about where people are, right?
Mhm.
However, info can also be like, hey, can you scan this? Okay, I scanned it. There's nobody in there. Or hey, they're all three above us, right? Like that's info, right? Info's about anything about your abilities, what they have, what you have, stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
The next step is a plan, right? When you make
Mhm.
a plan to initiate and a plan to fight, right? This is how you conductively say, hey, we're going to do this fight, right? You shouldn't ever not have a plan. A plan is always how you decide how to win. How you it's the wing factor, right? If I tell you why did you push a guy, you say I don't know, right? It's like, well, why, right? A plan can be good. A plan can be as simple as I wanted to push that guy because I thought it seemed good, right?
Yeah.
As long as you have some sort of thought process behind what you're doing, and you typically do. I think you've subconsciously, or like at least to some level, have this already, acknowledged, right?
Mhm.
Um, you typically always have a plan as what you're doing, right?
Mhm.
Um, the next step for this is the execution of the plan, right?
Yeah.
Execution, right? This is actually doing the plan. Like, sure, we can come up with a master plan, right? But if we don't know how to execute it, then like, it doesn't really like it depends, right?
Mhm.
Because you can also have a really bad plan, but execute it so well that it works, right?
Mhm.
Just because the plan is bad doesn't mean it fails, right?
Yeah.
And just because the plan is good, that doesn't mean it succeeds, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then the last step we have is resetting, right?
Mhm.
This is resetting to full or almost full. This is this is going to like high ground to get to reset for information. This is everything that comes in terms of like getting things to a neutral state, right? Whenever you initiate a fight, you want things to be equal. You want things to be neutral, right?
Mhm.
You want to be full health. You can't achieve that every single time, right?
Mhm.
You want to heal however possible. You want to get a good position. You want things to be as equal or as advantageous in your favor as possible. And
Mhm.
that's what this whole plan is dedicated to, right? And then
Mhm.
from there, from resetting, we get information. We go and do a plan. We execute it. We reset. We get information. We go and do ad nauseum, right? And
Mhm.
this works at a macro level, and this works at a micro level, right? If we think
Mhm.
macro, right? If we think macro, hey, let's fight a 3v3, right? Okay, the plan is to 3v3, right? So let's look at info. Let's like, what armors do we have? What armors do they have? What guns do we have? Do we have anything that can necessarily give us a win condition in a 3v3, right? It's like, oh, we have a Kraber. That's information, right? That's something we can use with 3v3 Kraber. We will try and use Kraber to get a knock. Then boom, steamroll off that, right?
Yeah.
Then boom, we just formulated a plan, right? You also look at it in many other ways. We have high ground. We have this. We have blah 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 blah. Right? All of
Mhm.
this you kind of know to some level of extension in your brain. But what happens when there's not really too much of a macro plan, right? Because
Mhm.
like they're playing pubs, right?
Mhm.
We're trying to run and get kills, right?
Yeah.
So we look at this in a different light. We look at this from less of a 3v3 to more of a 1v1 angle, right?
Mhm.
Let's look at all the things we can look at in 1v1, right? Information we can go, okay, this guy is by himself, he's solo. So this is a good 1v1 to take, right?
Mhm.
That's information we have. That doesn't mean we should take it, right? Just because it's a good 1v1 doesn't necessarily mean we should take it. There are
Mhm.
sometimes we don't want to take it. Because if it's a good 1v1, a good 1v1 is worse than a good 1v2, obviously, right?
Yeah.
1v1, we want to take a good 1v1. We want to it's like, oh, okay, so let's go 1v1. You can also be like, we have more armor, right? More armor. It's like, oh, we're hidden against the guy. They don't necessarily know where we're at. Things like that, right? We
Mhm.
can use information against our opponent and leverage it. We can be like, oh, we have really good strong position. We have really good cover. We have these things to do in a 1v1, right? And we can be like, because of these, we can fight this. Because of this, we can't fight this 1v1, right?
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we were to reenact, right? So let's go info again, right? We go the opponent has X, we have Y. And then from these variables, we decide that, yes, we should fight this 1v1, right? So the plan is to fight this 1v1 using these variables that we have in control, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, to fight this guy, I'm gonna play this box. I'm gonna, peek from the box. I'm gonna hard swing from the box, and have a natural advantage over the guy because he's walking into a bad spot. And then boom,
Mhm.
the execution of that comes down to how well you hit your shots, right? Do you
Mhm.
aim well? Do you move well? Do you kind of pressure your opponent really well with your movement? Do you stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And you can still lose that one, right? But does that mean it wasn't a bad? Does that mean it was a bad 1v1? Not necessarily. You might have just messed up on the execution, right?
Yeah.
And so far, from most of the things I've seen, your plan is typically pretty good. There are sometimes it can be improved, right? Your
Yeah.
execution is mostly just where it's lacking, right? Which is fine. That's actually a really good place to be, right?
Mhm.
And then from there, right? So the biggest steps for me in my mind for you right here, right? Your
Mhm.
best steps are these two: plan and execution. These are your strongest phases, right? Because you deliberately think about what you're doing. You kind of walk in, you go fight. You
Mhm.
keep doing that, right? What you struggle more so is in the other two stages here, right? The information and the reset phase, right?
Really?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, because you take a long period of time to actually reset in fights. You take a long period of time. You don't necessarily reset intentionally, right? You don't reset to the fullest extent. You don't necessarily get info to the biggest extent. You kind of play way too slow with the information, like the information, and then you continue to know the information, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
gain more information from being there longer, right?
Yeah.
And when you reset, for example, right? Let's look at
Mhm.
how you reset in let's look like here, right? You face up.
Going to phase.
You could have grabbed his banner here and then got his armor. Right? Like that's a failure in resetting.
Yeah.
There's also when you res both of them earlier, right?
Mhm.
I believe it was like
It's for like 3 minutes.
yeah. Like here, right? You don't necessarily reset until after you heal them, right? But if a fight breaks
Yeah.
out, you've never reset from the last fight, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm gonna break down these two steps here, info and reset, right? I'm gonna break these
Mhm.
down a little bit more. So the first step I want to go through is the info step, right?
Mhm.
Info. So this is gaining info through things like scans. This is also getting info through things like your eyes and ears, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you don't have the luxury of being like, hey, let me stop and look out everywhere before we fight this. Like you don't have the luxury of doing that all the time, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
there's just a team on you, right?
Yeah.
But the number one example I like to use for this is if I come over here and I go into the firing range. Right. What's better to look at, right? What gives us more information? This or this?
So when you have height.
Huh?
When you're on top.
Yeah, when you're on top, right? If you're on height,
Yeah.
right? This is why height's really good, right? Because we can literally see everything. We can look and get information with our eyes. You can go, there's dummies here, blah, 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 there, blah, 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 there, right? But what information do we have like this, right? If there's an enemy up here,
I say we move
right?
there.
Compared to an enemy being down here, think of all the information we have, right? We now know where they're at. I have a random. We have information about where everybody is. We can see everything. We can see all the ways that they're gonna push us. But up here, we don't see anything about cover or anything like that, right? Hello. Hello. But these are all the various, things we can consider when getting information, right? Information can also be stuff like armor, for example, right? When I am, this guy can actually 1v1, please don't. If we are in a like fight off drop, right? So in scrims and stuff like that, right? If I like, for example, if I'm scrimming with my team and we get 2 purples off drop, right? And we're contested, I'm like, go away. If I am contested off drop and I have 2 purples, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna tell my team to do?
So you're gonna push.
Yeah, fight, right? Like we have 2 purples, right?
Yeah.
We can deduce from our own armor that we probably have an advantage, right? That's information, right? If I get like a loot advantage in terms of like a sniper scope or something like that, I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
we have a range advantage. Let's try and get an opening pick, try and drain their meds early, you know, corner them, make sure they
Right.
can't get out, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. I guess I'm a bit confused though, like how information. So I definitely, I get what you're saying in terms of like I need to be more decisive about my resets,
Mhm.
a lot more. But I guess for me, it's like, at least from my perspective, like for me, it's not really an issue about like information,
Mhm.
right? It's like I feel like I'm always like keeping an eye on like what kind of shields we have, how many people landed near us in the POI, like how many people are fighting. I'm usually pretty like I keep an ear out and eye out for that. For me, it's just like as someone who plays predominantly solo, it's like I even with that information, I guess I'm just kind of stuck like what do I do with that information, right? Because like I play really W key heavy, right?
Mhm.
It's just fun for me, but then like like that's just like unfortunately that's just not how a lot of people want to play, which is totally fine. But obviously, well then like we're not really coordinated. So at that point, I'm like, well, do I just fucking run around, or do I just
Well,
take the fight and
information,
hopefully goad them into it? Like it's really confusing for me at that point.
yeah, information is still really important for you though. It's still the important thing to know, right? Because
Yeah.
information can also be, for example, if I were to break down, if I were to draw like vaguely, like let's just, oops, sorry, I have a notepad file open. If I were to vaguely draw areas, right? If I were to vaguely draw, like building A, building B, and building C, right?
Mhm.
And you're in building A, and the enemy's in building C, right? And
Mhm.
both you guys are trying to take control of building B, like it's a good spot in the zone, right?
Yeah.
And they have scan and you don't, right? It's harder for you to necessarily be more aggressive because you don't necessarily know where they're at, but they know where you're at, right?
Mhm.
So even as an individual solo, and still trying to push up. Oh wait, hang on, chat can't see this. I forgot that they can't. It's still harder for you to necessarily fight both unless you get here first. Because you get here first, right? And you deny them the building, like you're
Mhm.
already up here and they're trying to cross, and you shoot them as they're trying to cross, right? It's way
Yeah.
harder for them to get the building now, right? And that's
Mhm.
information you have. You know that they're crossing.
Mhm.
um, and overall, you can still use information like this as a solo. It's even more important as a solo, right? Because if you're trying to enter
Yeah.
a building where it's contested, right? Like let's say, especially as a solo player, right? And no
Mhm.
fill, and no fill, you get punished for whatever, like at any point, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
If there's a team of 3 in this building, right? There's a team of 3 in this building, but you don't know where they are, right? And then you just walk in through the bottom door willy nilly, right? Guess where one might be?
Mhm.
On the bottom floor, and they shoot you in the side. Boom! You take 50 damage, you die, right? That 50
Mhm.
damage could just kill you in no fill, right?
Mhm.
And it's like now you're running away. Now you're running into your building. Now they're all chasing you. Now you're like all the way around, and then you get killed eventually, right?
Yeah.
So information about where people are is more important when being decisive about what you're doing, right? So if you look here, right, let's look at how information shapes this fight. This one. Yeah. So let's look at how information shapes this fight, right? So team here. So if we look at the areas you guys control, right? You guys control the lower part here, in the water. You guys are in the water. Your teammates are in the water, right? So they fight and control that space, right?
Yeah.
This middle space right here is more uncontested, right? Because both teams
Mhm.
can shoot this, right?
Yeah.
The enemy controls this space here, past this
Mhm.
doorway, everything beyond this, right? Beyond this thing, these doors and things are a thing called thresholds. That's a more
Mhm.
advanced concept I can talk about with you later as well.
Mhm.
But the enemies control everything right here, right?
Mhm.
This information you might have subconsciously registered. This might be something you're like, oh yeah, I knew that or whatever, right? Or this might be brand new information. Whatever it is,
Mhm.
it's still important to know, right? So
Mhm.
if we go, this is how the information shapes the fight, right? You're scared because who has the stronger position here? You or them? Or sorry, your team or their team?
Who was the what?
Who has the stronger position? Your team or their team?
I mean, I could be completely wrong, but initially I thought 13.
Yeah, their team, right? They have cover. You guys don't really.
Yeah.
The only cover you really have is like this thing you're
I'm
playing right now.
running in the fucking water. Like,
Yeah,
that's why.
you have no cover. You have no height. You have nothing, right? They have so many
Yeah.
ways. Like they can easily just walk up the ramp here and fucking kill you
Yeah.
guys, right?
That's what. Yeah.
And that's all the information. That's how all the information shapes this fight. You go, we don't know where they're at. You have actually, in fact, you have so little information about where they are that's very dangerous, right? This isn't like if you were quote unquote as W key heavy, you know, without necessarily thinking, you would just kind of go like whoop and then go to the door and die probably, right? Because for all you know, there could just be 2 people right here, right? You have no clue at all in the slightest about where they're at. One's there, right? And then one's like there, right? So you port, and then you take a stronger space. You take a stronger space that's a little bit less aggressive. Oh my god.
Yo, boys, take port.
Oh, it's okay. And then you have your team push back. You have one of your teammates push back, right?
Yeah.
Recharging my shields.
Right. So at this point now, you have a rough idea of where all the enemies are.
Just resetting the building.
At this point, you have a rough idea of where all the enemies are. You want to back up so the teammates can, so the enemies come to you here, which is necessarily a smarter play. But your Mirage can't take the portal to fucking get over here because he either doesn't listen or like
he
can't.
can. That's what annoyed me. I feel like he totally could.
He probably could have. He probably was like, no, dude, like probably couldn't, right? But like he probably totally could have.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's a pub, so it's not. I wouldn't worry about. Like,
yeah, it's not a big deal, but I was just,
Yeah.
I was just amused, you know, like,
right.
like he could, because I was still shooting down at them and taking damage even on height, so hopefully he could take port. So. So at this point, I'm just like, I just need to help him fight because he's kind of gone to shit.
I think what?
Broken enemy shield.
And then he had a sick one. And then he had a sick 1v3, 1v3ish. Like I was 1 HP, but still.
Yeah, it was like a 1v2. Yeah.
Still, it was still pretty clean. You didn't get cracked. All right.
You know, they cracked me a lot when I was on fight though. It's kind of annoying.
Right here, right? The fight's concluded, right? The fight's ended. So the last thing for the fight, right? The last step we have here is the reset phase, right? This is probably where your weakest part is. Your information part isn't necessarily the weakest, but I think it's pretty weak. But resetting is where you're definitely the weakest, right? So resetting typically comes in a couple forms, right? If we look at all the ways you can reset, right? We can reset. We're not just looking for health values to reset, right? But we still are. We obviously still are. There are 2 ways that are the best ways to reset. Do you have any guesses as to what they are? There's 2 things. 2 things.
You mean like health wise?
Huh?
Are you talking health wise?
1 health wise, 1 non health wise.
Oh, I might be wrong. I was just thinking shield swap and then rotate out.
Armor swap, right? Or armor or shield swap, whatever you want to call it, right? Armor swap, because this instantly gives us, 50 to 125 health. This is a good way. Like if you take a fight, like obviously you have to take damage to deal damage for the most part, right? But if you fight a full team and never get cracked, right? Then you armor swap. You're gonna fight another team, right? You're perfectly fine, right? Armor swap, and the other thing is to reset. We want to go to height, right? We're gonna put an asterisk on height because we want height. We want height. It's not only just height, but it typically is height. Height is a geometrically advantageous position, right?
Yeah.
Because if we don't control the geographically advantaged position, somebody else could, right? But also going to height also lets us get information, lets us control a strong position, lets us kind of dictate the flow of another fight, right? So when you go to reset, I also want you. There's also the addendum of if you need to medkit instead, right? Like if you're 1 HP flesh, like an armor swap isn't necessarily enough to reset, but you could still fight, right? You could still fight if you're forced to. Like medkitting was still really good. Looting for ammo is also looting for ammo, looting for nades, looting for meds, just looting for resources in general is still part of resetting, right? Anything like rezzing obviously is important, right? I'm trying to think about exactly what else could be part of the reset phase. in like things like setting down abilities and things like that. You play Bangalore or Wraith, not really super applicable for you. But if you played like Watson or something like that, right? It's like hey, put down fences so we can hold the area down while we all reset, right? So put down traps, put down or maybe even throw like Kados ult if we're like there's another team, right? Anything like that, right? Ability usage. You kind of get the idea from there, right? All of the stuff that goes into resetting, right? So the number one thing you want to do after finishing a team fight is look for an armor swap. If an armor swap is out of reach or whatever, you obviously want to look for the alternative, which is a good old fashioned battery, right? Battery or medkit. It depends on the situation, right? Because if you have white armor, a medkit is basically always worth more than a battery. If you're missing health, but this is the number one part in where you're lacking, right? Whenever you want to fight somebody else, right? We do all of this to try and set an equal floor for us to fight our next fight off of, right? We want to make sure that we're not fighting uphill if possible, right? Obviously, sometimes we can't, but we want to mitigate as much as possible through as little time as possible, right? So whenever you finish a fight, always look for an armor swap. Always try and go to, some sort of good position. Sometimes you can't, sometimes it's like whatever. And then all of this is secondary. All of this comes after, right? Because if there's another team, right, all you need is the armor swap. That's all you need to go first, right? You don't need to loot unless you don't have ammo, right? Like ammo obviously takes number one priority over, going to height if you don't have ammo. But you can kind of shift these priorities around as as they kind of show themselves in game. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Especially if you do this faster and you do this in mind with, hey, I'm going to do this, right? You'll start doing it faster. The number one thing I tell students to get faster with looting, right, is to have an idea of what you always need. Always tell yourself, what do I need going in this death box, right? What am I looking for, right? And then people will like literally make like a shopping list, right? They'll go, oh, I need big meds, right? And I'm like, I'm like more specific. You have med kits. What do you need? And it's like bats. I need bats, right? And I'm like, you have a purple mag on your. I'm like, you have a purple mag on your R9. What more do you need? It's like, oh, like a laser sight. I'm like, okay, and that's it. All you're looking for is like a laser sight, right? Like a laser sight. You're looking for X. You're looking for Y in the death box. Don't spend all the time going in the death box going, oh, do I really need like 4 more shield cells? Do you really need like it's like it doesn't matter, right? And you do loot, and you do loot modestly slow. Right?
Yeah, dude.
So when you go to loot, I want you to also go look for stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
So here, right?
Are you gonna talk about after the Valk fight?
Huh?
Never mind.
So after you raise your teammates, right? It's like if we look at your shilling wheel, right? You have frick. I can go frame by frame. Wait, did I go the wrong way? I think I went the wrong way. Here, right? So we look at your healing wheel, right? What do you need out of this, right? You have bats, you have shield cells, you have 5 syringes. What do you need, right? Just medkits, right? When you go into a death box, like sure you can pick up batteries. You can just click on batteries, to fill up your slots, right? But you don't need batteries. You need like a medkit. You need medkits. You need like maybe some shotgun ammo, and like maybe some like Klein ammo. I don't know how much you have right now, right? But it's like important to keep a deliberate idea of what you need, right? The only thing I want to see you use more, especially in your fighting, is less gunfight. Is again, we only look for gunfights in situations where we can, right? We look more for advantages that we can push forwards toward. I want to see I want to see you exercise more like grenade usage as well, right, in your fights.
So are you saying I shouldn't go for gunfights where I'm at a disadvantage though?
What? Sorry.
Well, are you saying like I shouldn't get into the habit of like instinctually like jumping into gunfights where I know I'm at a disadvantage?
Yeah, because if you go for, I mean, sure, you can't argue in pubs especially, right? It's good to fight people, right? It's good to fight people, right?
Yeah.
You can always leverage skill in a situation where you can't, right? I don't want you to get too wary of being like, oh, that's like it's only 2 people. I shouldn't like shoot them. It's like no, you should still shoot them. Always shoot them, right? But don't go for a 1v1 like you're honorable like duelist, right? Like you're like it's like the 1700s and you're like flintlock pistols in the field going like it's 1 3 2 1 fire. All right, reload our muskets, right? Like no one's going to do that. You're going to have 3 people jump on you with fucking ARs, right? And you're like, "Oh, okay, cool." Right? No one's going to honorably duel you. You have to play if when I say 1v1 gunfight, I say that means no, that means like no or very little use of cover, right? Just sitting out in the open, shooting. We're shooting each other. We're trading damage on each other, right? You should have the ability to instantly end this fight. You should have and by instantly end the fight, I mean like go into cover, right? Go into cover, leave, make the fight end by some way of like an ability, aka Wraith Phase or Bang Smoke or mobility or whatever, right? Have the ability to instantly disengage, right? Don't go for these 1v1 situations unless it's really good for you to, right? Like if you go, hey, this guy's exposed. This is enough for us to, win the fight. Or if you're like, hey, we can, this, or you go, hey, I kind of have to fight this, right? Because if there's 3 people pushing you in your corner, don't just not shoot them, right? You kind of have to, try and fight a 1v3.
Well, what if it's in like situations like, like this game, right? There's like a lot of moments where like, yeah, I did take 1v3s, but like the smart thing was probably just to, run away. But what if like, this might sound bad, but like, what if I just don't want to? Like what if I just want to fight? Like, is that stupid or?
No, that's not stupid at all, right? The way you approach gunfights in this is really good because you're not doing, like the best example of this I would say is right here, where your caustic dies, right, and then your Mirage is fighting, and then you just fucking go in, right? You're like whatever, going in. This is the perfect example of just that's when you say fuck it, right?
Yeah, I just didn't want to. I just felt like if I could have rested him. Sure, but I felt like
you would have lost all.
Yeah,
you would have lost all the momentum down here. Nothing would have changed, right? Like no, like going down here and setting this is so smart. It's like that's the perfect thing you could have done here.
Okay,
that's good. Like that, that's when you should say fuck it. I'm just going, right? And right here, right, early on, let me see. Let me look at like here, right? Here, you're not taking you're not taking one-on-one. You're not taking aim duels, right? Let's define them more as aim duels rather than like gunfights, right? Because like aim duels are where you're both aiming at each other, right? If I flowchart ask you, is this guy aiming at you? No, right? It's not. So is it 1v1 aim duel? No, you're just shooting the guy, right?
Yeah.
And then if we go here, right? Is this guy aiming at you? No, right?
Nah. Yeah.
And then the Bloodhound like drops whatever, right? This guy drops. Not only is this not a 1v1, right? Because your Mirage is there. He's not helping you, right now. But like your teammate's there, right? That's good enough.
Yeah.
Like sure, this is like that is an aim duel right there, right? But you win it, and because you're already winning it, because you get jump on him and you shut on him, right? You don't end it, right? You don't end it immediately. And then you have another, and then look, this is another aim duel, right? This is another 1v1 aim duel against the person that drops next to you, right? But you don't fight it because you're already at disadvantage, right? So you leave, and then your teammate fights it, and then boom, no longer 1v1. Your teammate's there. You fight it. You fight it with your teammate, right? And that's the only reason you win it. And then here, should you have fought this Bloodhound?
You mean fought them faster?
Or no. I mean, just at all, right? Should you have done this? Yeah, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to.
Oh, I thought you meant like should I have like counted myself just to fight quicker?
Yeah, you could argue that, right? But at the end of the day, you did it. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
In situations where you're just going for like an aim duel, where you're both shooting each other at maximum ability, right? You want to avoid that unless it's like very favorable to have a 1v1, right?
I'm actually interested to hear what you have to say about this short game thing because I feel like you might have strong feelings about that.
Do you have the small game?
Yeah, yeah. I think I sent it to you. So it's
Uh,
really just at the last minute of the game.
I only have the Mirage counter game. That's all I have in my games.
Wait a minute.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really the last fight that I talk about. So I wonder what you might say about my decision making here.
Well, then skip to the last fight because we only have like 7 minutes left.
Yeah, for sure. So it starts when basically like the Valk my Valk dies.
Okay. Oh, I see. They're here. Okay.
Oh, that's actually the second fight. So there's a third fight right after we clean these guys up.
Okay.
Yeah, so right around here.
Recharging my shields.
Yeah, so it's a 1v3 basically.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I downed an enemy.
Nice. Oh, so close.
Because I know like if you didn't experience me, like maybe I should have gone to the Vantage because she was still, but truthfully she was just kind of not really doing anything the whole game. So in my mind, I was gonna port and hopefully get Valk up if she could make it to the port and then re-engage. But
Yeah, no, I think your decision making. I mean, the portal here is good, right? You're cracked, or you're not cracked, but you're just overall in a bad position, right?
yeah,
Well, you're healing. You're keeping your blue armor, which is fine, right? This was so close. I mean, like this portal's good. You're making distance so you can reset, right? You're still trying to initiate the reset phase, but you're still down a considerable amount of HP. You basically have no armor, or basically have like less than white armor right now. And your teammates just don't do anything. Smile. Right. The number one thing you can focus on here, this can be so much seen as so much more as like mechanics, right? So let's look at the things you do wrong here, right? Versus things you do right, right? Take portal right. The only information you have. So this is actually a good idea into information, right? You have no information as where people are at, right?
yeah,
You don't know where anybody's at. You can assume that they're vaguely over here or somewhere, right?
yeah.
That's all you know. You're in their contested space. They own this space, right? So you're actively trying to fight in this space. This cover here is basically all you really have to play, right? And this Pathfinder is seemingly isolated, right?
Yeah.
Sure, he might not be isolated in a second, but you have a second to kill this guy, right?
Yeah.
And you do kill this guy in a second, in a literal whole ass second, because of SMG DTK, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at the overall game scheme, right? So 3v3, or not 3v3, 1v3 rather. My bad. 1v3. So I think I've said this before. Am I talking about this last session? Can't remember. 1v3. What do these three people do better than you? They have 3 times more HP. They have 3 times more damage, right? They have 3 times more angles. They can hold 3 times better than you. They can do like everything 3 times better than you can, right?
Yeah.
So every single damage trade you do has to be a 1-to-3 ratio, right? So if you take 100 damage, you better be dealing 300 damage, right?
Yeah.
Or being a situation. I mean, obviously during damage is a little high, right? If you get a knock versus not getting knocked, you should be okay, right? Because you can bat, you can armor swap, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of restabilizes it. So right here, right? Right here. So for that first knock, right? You took like 25 damage, and you generated a knock, right? Was this in your favor?
Yes.
Yes, 100%, absolutely, right?
Mhm.
Now it's a 1v2, right? And because it's a 1v2, that skews this more to just they can only do twice as much damage, have twice as much HP. That's it, right? So this
Yeah.
is a lot more winnable now. I mean, because you took no damage off that guy, right?
Mhm.
Especially, or like very, very little damage off that guy, right?
I downed an enemy.
And this last guy here, right? So now you have to win the last 1v1 against somebody who's full HP, right? We're going to assume that the last target's full HP, right?
Yeah, it's a reasonable assumption. Yep.
So you have what, like 30 HP
Yeah.
versus, like let's say like 175, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let's say 175 HP just on a guess, right? So is this a fight you should take?
No.
No, right? So what are the number one things we should do in this fight?
Reset.
Reset, right? So we can
Yeah.
reset. You have basically two options in my mind right now for what
Mhm.
you can do. What do you think the options are?
I mean, I was trying to just go to my port. I probably should have just queued immediately.
A port, yeah, port is an option, right? You can queue to the port. You can just run to the port. You can do one of the two options, right?
Yeah.
The other option you have is an armor swap, right?
Mhm.
That'll help you be more active in the fight and be more stabilized, right? But
Yeah.
I would say that port is the safer option, right?
Yeah.
You can play port. You can let your teammates you can let this guy give you information about where he's at, what he's doing, if he's rezzing, right? If he's rezzing, you can come back to the portal and then fight him,
Yeah.
right? Something like that, right? So portal is definitely the safest play to do here, right?
Yeah. I just couldn't make it in time.
If you unironically, if you tap strafe, you actually could have made it to your portal if you tap strafe, right?
I don't know anything about movement, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
GG.
It's important to know how to tap strafe, especially in situations like this, right? Tap strafing is really, really good. I mean, even having any sense of air control is really good, right? Because literally, if you go, I think you've realized here, you're like, okay, oh, I go to my portal, right? I think you realized right here, you're like, I could have gone to my portal, right? Because if you just slid jump into your portal, you would have been fine, right? So it's such a close fight, right? But
Yeah,
if you took like 25 less damage, you would have won, right? You would have won. Could have taken the portal and like if the guy took the portal after you, could have just killed him. Right.
Downed an enemy.
Well, your decision making here is fine. This is more of a mechanics issue, which I think. I mean, you weren't really doing clips like this last time I watched you play, or like last VOD, right? You weren't really doing clips like this.
I just feel like my aim is still really sloppy, though, and I can't figure out why.
If you want to like become like if you want to be like really mechanically refined, I would really advise you to learn how to aim train. If you want to do a session for that, I can do a whole session like showing you how to do stuff, showing you how to do all that stuff. If you want to learn how to do it yourself, there's stuff in the Voltaic server as well. I see you're in the Voltaic server.
Yeah, I don't really do anything in it though.
Huh?
I should probably be more engaged. I don't really like. I just kind of join in, just kind of forgot about it.
And that's really fair. You don't have to talk to anybody or do anything right there. You don't have to do anything in there. Let me link you to the. Yeah. This is the resources channel. This has all the resources for aim training in there. There's a thing called aim. There's an aim training document as I'm screen sharing here. This talks about what's the purpose of the guide. It's designed to give you the information resources you need to begin aim training effectively. And it's just talking about like why it's beneficial, especially since you have a background in like music and sports, right?
Yeah.
It's basically the idea of if you're playing soccer, you don't play 1,000 games of soccer to get really good at soccer, right? You do drills, you dribble, you do goalie, you do kickoffs, you do shit like that, right?
Yeah.
You do all, and then aim training acts as a goal as a training regimen for one of those things, right?
Yeah.
And there's like goals for your aim trainer. If you don't want to read all this and do it yourself, that's basically my coach session is not just reading this off. It's more so my personal opinion and like my personal stuff that I can give off to people, right?
Yeah. I did try. I think it was like a few months back. I did try Voltaic's Apex routine, but I just felt like
it's not
I felt like
good.
it was just like. I mean, it was like really fucking hard, even the ease one, at least for me. And then I was like, I feel like I'm probably biting off more than I can chew, so I just literally just booted up like Kovacs, like basic playlist, and just started like spamming that. But then I was just like, I don't know if this is really helping, to be honest.
Yeah, I would recommend you never do aim trainer default scenarios because they're really bad.
Okay.
They're not like I just didn't do the It's Timmy Kovacs like warm up thing, and I played it.
I did not even look at that.
It's
I was like,
really bad. It's the same
Yeah.
scenario like 3 times. I'm
okay,
like, dude, no one's learning anything from this. Yeah.
okay.
Voltaic has a bunch of really good stuff for both games. The most updated stuff is for AimLab. When it's free, and 2, you like if you want Kovacs, there's also still Kovac stuff.
Mhm.
If you're interested in this, I think if you, from the way that I know you, from the things I've talked about in our previous sessions, especially
Mhm.
knowing how you approach this game and your goals for it, you would benefit a good bit from learning how to aim train. It would help you a lot, and it gives you a definitive measure. It's important to know that aim training is hard for a reason, right? It's like running with ankle weights, right? Because if you're consistent against things that are way harder than how it is in game, when you go in game, everything moves way slower. It's way easier to track, right? You
Yeah,
have way better control, and there's still stuff that is really hard. It moves so little that's still hard by virtue, right? Because
Yeah.
exerting so little control is really hard, right?
Mhm.
Does all that make sense?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have any questions?
Not really. Like, I guess I'm just surprised. I think you mentioned earlier that like my planning and my execution were actually my strong suits, and I'm assuming that mechanics goes into the execution part. So I guess that
Yeah,
surprised me because I felt like I was better at resetting than like actually being in gunfights. So I guess I don't know. That just surprised me.
your resetting is pretty slow. Number one thing I want you to focus on is just resetting. Is resetting with the intention of armor swapping, setting everything to an equal value, right, as soon as possible. Always heal after a fight, right? Even if you go to res somebody, right, or obviously getting somebody up and getting them to pop a battery is faster than you popping a battery, you med kitting, then resing them, right? Obviously you should res them first. Getting armor swap.
Yeah.
But excuse me. But you should always understand the tier list of how you actually need to reset properly, right? But the number one thing I want to focus on is specifically resetting faster, resetting more thoroughly, resetting with the ability to go to here. I'll send this thing to you also. Making sure you go, hey, when I reset, I'm getting an armor swap. I'm getting armor swap at every opportunity. I'm hopping in med kit in situations where it's applicable. I'm armor swapping, then resing my then resing my teammate, all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the faster you do it, the more fights you'll get in, right? If you watch the I have a video breaking down the world record in Apex, right? And this guy's resets.
Lemo, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this.
I
But,
did, yeah.
Yeah, his resets are literally like
Just so fast.
But height is really good, right? There's one fight specifically I want to see. He needs for it to check. Here it is. That's insane. Walk up and kill this Newcastle as fast, right? Because there's this. Now. 1, 2, 3. Let me go look at the original video. Let's look at the original video. Alright, so if we go here, it's like the world record, like whatever, right? He wipes one squad, he knocks one guy, he pops cells, right? He resets for the last. Kills this guy, and the last guy's over here, right? Alright, this motherfucker just ignores 9 death boxes, right?
Yeah.
He grabs ammo, grabs cells, leaves, right? That's it. That's his whole reset phase. That's it, right? He could have armor swap too if he took damage from that guy, right? But that would have made it 0.02 seconds slower. Armor swap, right? And then he's in the next fight. He's done resetting, right? And so he doesn't miss out on any kills because his resets are never longer than 4 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 8 seconds because he pop a medkit once or twice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. Well, obviously yours isn't gonna look like that overnight, right? But like stuff like that, obviously, you get the idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I think I'm all good. Just hoping I'm going in the right direction right now. Honestly,
Your direction, your mechanics have gotten so much better since your last session. Like literally looking, especially at your last like gameplay video when you were like fighting like 1v3s compared to this one, like you've improved multitudes since then. You will continue to improve multitudes if you keep doing this, right?
Okay,
and keep understanding that it's not necessarily I don't want you to only tunnel vision on hitting your shots, right? I don't want you to only tunnel vision on your mechanics. I want you to understand, encapsulate all the mechanics together and understand them, right? Because you will plateau really hard if you only focus on one thing, right?
Okay.
Kind of focus on different things, different periods of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I basically obviously you can you have complaints about your aim, right? Like, and you can focus on that, like in an aim trainer, you can focus on that, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like, look at the game and look at the mechanics of the game and look at all of them in very different ways, right? And look at the game sense. Look at like how you decide to take fights. Look at all that stuff very differently, right? Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't want you to just get too like caught in like your own head, right? About it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to beat yourself up. Literally, you have so little time in this game, but you already play so much better than majority players do. Like, how many hours do you have in this game again?
As of today, 466 in 1 minute.
Yeah, you have 466 hours. Like, you were literally better than most players at that range. You're way better than I was. You're way better than majority of students that I coach in that hour period. And this is like your first FPS, right? Remember?
It's my first PvP FPS.
Yeah, it's your first PvP FPS. Like, you're really fucking good.
Okay, thank you.
You're doing really fucking good, and you can continue to do really fucking good if you keep applying yourself like this.
Okay.
Basically, the whole goal of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid you from plateauing really hard, and like beating yourself up about it. Okay.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I'm trying to focus you on. Put the path for put you on.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. You should be good. We can touch bases in a couple weeks again if you want.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're interested in working long term, I have Discord subscriptions for push sessions every month. If you want to do that instead,
because I know right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because I know you. This is your second time, and I know you've paid the Metafy thing for it, right?
Yeah.
Which is obviously a good bit because Metafy's taking a cut out of coaching prices now, which is
I saw your tweet. I think it was like a week or so.
Yeah, and so I have to increase the prices, but if you want to do Discord subscriptions, it's only $25 a month.
Cool.
And then if you want to do that, you'll get another coach this month from it if you want.
So, cool.
Yeah. That's all I have for you. Make sure you remember to focus on. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully working with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You are improving multitudes. I'm very excited to see where you'll end up in like 3 months, 6 months.
Hopefully, good place.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Solo.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
No problem. Bye-bye.